challenge your style take on how we do things. And he's got 10 hours of content. So his challenge is always, how do I fit what I need to say in shorter time? So thanks, Brian, for doing that. But he's going to be focusing on a particular area of this onboarding process and this journey. And then, of course, I'm going to bring up Dr. Jamie Reynolds and Danielle Opperman. They are running one of the most successful practices in the OrthoFi fleet, and they have been grinding on this same-day start program and protocol for years now, almost 10 years, and you'll benefit from all of their learnings through that exploration. So, why are you listening to me, other than I have the mic and you don't? No, I'm just kidding. So, hopefully I can be instructive and bring some good information and context for you. So, I've been in the orthodontic industry almost 20 years. I, in my former life, helped to establish professional tooth whitening. Many of you probably have heard or seen the brand Zoom. So I had a hand in developing that. So I'm a big fan and a big proponent of consumer-friendly technologies and how to connect them with high-quality providers. That's my mission in life. Everyone's got to have a mission, that's mine. And I love what orthodontic practices do for people. You change lives. So if you haven't owned that statement, say to yourself and own it, because you truly do change lives. And so that's what we're here to do, is helping you to access and touch and help more patients. So yes, we're going to use words like sales, and we're going to use words like influencing. Those are not bad words. Those are essentially ways to connect people with what we do, which is life-changing treatment. So I've written a lot. I love data. For those of you that know me, I'm kind of a data geek. I've published tons of articles. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at OrthoFi. That's what I do in my day job. We are, Dr. Reynolds and I just published a book. I'm waiting for the tracking number. It's supposed to actually be here right now, that we put out, which has a lot of this information in it. So hopefully, that helps to give you some context. But and for those that know me personally and you're a movie buff, I would love to spend time with you. I have a dehumanizing addiction to movies and movie quotes. So everyone that knows me knows that I'm that guy. What should mean the most to you out of all this is that being in my position, I also have point of sale data access to over 1,000 orthodontic locations that have processed over $5 billion worth of orthodontic production. I know what happens when they start. I know what happens after they start. I know whether they pay or not. I have all of that data, and I'm going to be sharing some good factoids with you. And as much as we're talking about the front end of acquiring the patient, we also do tons of education and lecturing on all of the revenue cycle management and collection stuff as well. So hopefully that helps to create some credibility for me. So I start out with this slide. This is literally one of the first learnings that we got at OrthoFi when we started to plug practices in. And this may seem intuitive, but think a little bit deeper about what I'm sharing with you, because this should become a rally cry if it's not already in your practice around same-day starts. And that is, what we looked at is the percentage conversion rate after a patient was recommended treatment, the percentage conversion rate, depending on whether a few things actually happen. So obviously, a same-day start, actually a clinical start, that's 100% conversion rate. They said yes, they started, they got appliances. That's 100%. The people that signed a contract same day and went home, 98.6. So virtually 100%, but you can see even a little leakage even there. So even something that you think is a totally ironclad commitment, even there's a little bit of leakage. As soon as they left without signing a contract, even if they had an appointment scheduled to come back and start, the conversion rate drops to 80%. So 20% leakage for patients that said, sure, I'll make an appointment to come back and start. So something happened. Life happened. They saw somebody else. They talked to somebody else. Something happened. 80%. And for those patients that left the practice without a committed appointment set, dropped to under 50%. So this is normal consumer buying behavior, and it's actually getting more and more this way. The millennial buyer is even more this way than they've ever been. They don't have as much loyalty. as you would want and expect. So when they're there, you got to get it. So that's why we're here today. So let's talk about this crazy market we're in, right? Not just like the market we have to watch and the starts we have to watch, but we have to watch the news and all the Misery Channel stuff that we hear in terms of what's happening in the economy. So let's clear some of this up. So let's talk about what's happening. We've got inflation, so costs are up, right? Material costs, things are up. That squeezes profitability of the practice. Staff salaries increasing, inflation. You also have downward fee pressure. So even though I don't believe that the Smile Direct Clubs of the world are ever going to eclipse professional orthodontics, specialty orthodontics, it is a pressure. It is a pressure, and there's awareness that there is an option that is significantly lower. And Smile Direct Club is out there pummeling people with 60% less, right? So that creates some fee pressure. There's also consolidation. A lot of practices are selling or buying or being purchased stuff, and typically these larger enterprise organizations are leveraging their scale and size. They can buy for less, so they pass on some of that so they can increase their competitiveness, and so that creates gentle downward fee pressure. And then have the insurance carriers that are getting more and more aggressive about their in-network discounts, where you have to take a network discount. That's a whole other can of beer, by the way. I would love to spend time at the bar this evening sharing data with you. We have a lot of very interesting data that actually puts into question the true value of in-network. So you're taking a lot of discounts for what seems to be very little advantage from a conversion and volume rate. So that's a whole other discussion. We're not talking about that today, but that's downward fee pressure. And then all together, we've got issues with starts and conversion rate. So some of that is because we're seeing a higher index of adults treating that tend to convert 10 to 15 points lower. That's downward pressure on conversion rate. You have a more fickle consumer that's doing more internet shopping versus being recommended. So all of this stuff creates that. So we've got three interesting pressures that are actually interrelated. They're not separate, they're actually interrelated. And so in order to combat and balance all of these factors, you really need to be thinking about a solution that threads all three of these things, if that makes sense. And so let's take the actual product away. Of course, I'm the CMO of OrthoFi. We will talk a little bit about the product. This is not about the product. This is not going to be a big infomercial still today. We're talking about the way that you need to think about converting, the way you need to think about flexibility and your fees and positioning and financing. And yes, it's all built in to what we do. But either way, if you don't do OrthoFi, I want you guys to take something away that you put into your practice on Monday or Wednesday, depending on how long you're going to be here. So this concept of intelligent flexibility is success. I went down to three financial factors. You have growth, you have cash flow, and you have default risk. Those three things are at play at any one given time in your practice. And so the ideal is to try to balance them, because again, they're interrelated. You can jack up your growth by doing crazy stuff, and you already know intuitively, you don't need me to tell you, that it's going to have some downstream effects, either the cash flow or the risk, depending on what you're doing. But the average practice has modest growth, 2.5 to 4% annual growth. Most practices enjoy pretty darn good cash flow, right? Most practices are getting anywhere from 15 to 20% down, including 20% handfuls. And so good cash flow and very, very low risk. In industry, we average anywhere from 3 to sometimes 5%, but very low single-digit default risk. So we're going to be talking about flexibility. So everyone in this room can go home and adopt flexibility without any new product or tool. Anyone can go home and say, low or no down and 30 to 36 month payment plans. The reason why you don't want to do that and just sort of flatly put it on paper is that what will happen is your growth index will go up, your cash flow will drop, and your risk will go up. So you're not properly balancing those factors. And so what we wanted to do is to adopt an AI-style intelligent software that had a lot of these algorithms built in to help to set up the practices for success without them having to understand all this calculus. So we were the first company to launch sliders. There are, I think happily, a lot of different ones. If you don't use OrthoFi, I would definitely recommend it, at least a presentation tool. It's better than not having one. The static plan proposal, in my opinion, should be dead. And I'll tell you the easiest reason why. There's really two reasons. One is the consumer is more disposed to wanting more control today. So the fact of giving them actual control is very important. But more importantly, if you try to be more flexible and use a static fee presentation, you can guarantee that you're going to get that plan or something more flexible than that. So you're leaving yourself very little to no upside for someone that wants to put it down. As soon as they see a number on paper, they're going to be thinking, is that the lowest number that I can do? If you get open choice, which we'll talk about, they're thinking maybe lower, but they're also being shown the advantages of doing higher downs or faster payment back. So you need that open choice. So it's not just a presentation tool, it is what's built in. So what I'm using the Intel, so using that Intel inside. And by using that, we've been able to prove and demonstrate like pretty effective same-day start rates. We're averaging over 2x the industry, I say industry, the Gauge same-day start average. Gauge is the closest thing we have to a market benchmark. I tend to think Gauge practices skew a little bit higher on the food chain, just because if practices can measure their success, they're probably more committed to that success. Nevertheless, we are showing a meaningful increase in same-day starts by the way that we do what we do. And so this concept of open choice, again, to get away from the eye candy of the slider. The slider is great, it's super cool, and patients love it. It's eye candy and very little more. The cool thing is actually the algorithms that are inside and built in. So every patient theoretically could see a slightly different plan, slightly different slider based on the information that they give us and their characteristics. And we put in some gamification into it. So for example, we innovated and introduced the concept of tiered discounts. It's not about discounting, by the way. I hope you're going to follow me on this. So most practices offer, let's say, a 5% pay in full discount. That's very standard in our industry. But what if the patient doesn't have $5,000, $5,500, $6,000 bucks? But they do have maybe $2,000 or $3,000. Right now, in the typical practice, there's no incentive for them to do that. So what we've applied is a way for them to enjoy differing levels. So if you have a 5% pay in full, you might have a 2% discount for 50% down, or 3% for 75% down. And believe it or not, people pick that all the time. Now, why is that so cool and important? Because every one of those patients that chooses to start a case of brackets and gives you 3,000 down, or they would have picked 500 or whatever your minimum down is, every one of those helps you to do perhaps an Invisalign case where the patient only has $250 or $300 or $400 to get started. It creates positive cash flow leverage. So I'm boosting it on some patients to create the same balanced aggregate leverage for the ones that don't have higher downs. So again, you could go home today and say $250 minimum down for everybody and put it on paper, and that's what you're going to get, and nothing more. So you have to have a system of open choice that gives you some good guys to balance the bad guys. The second is leveraging something that has been a bit taboo in orthodontics, which is the concept of interest, right? So we don't have interest to make a bunch of money or to make you guys a bunch of money with interest. It's not about usury. This is about creating a guardrail or a guide rail for patients. So we allow most patients to go out as long as 36 months if they need to, because they need to get their payment lower. But if they go out well beyond treatment, they're going to be selecting a plan that has low single-digit interest. And so that's the disincentive. If they need it, they will pick it. And we've got tons of data showing that they're not allergic to it. They understand what interest is. They will pick it in exchange for a longer plan that you might not offer today. But if they don't need it, they won't pick a longer plan, which is great for you. You don't want people to pick, everyone picking a lower plan. So for example, we've got some OrthoFi practices that turn off interest because they think, oh, no, my patients won't accept interest. And what they don't realize, what they're doing in that very moment, is they're taking away the disincentive for longer plans. If someone showed me a slider where I could go 36 months interest-free just as quickly as I could go to 24, everyone in this room should pick that. Right? Why not? It's free money, right? So that's the reason why it's there. What I'm showing you here on this graph is, believe it or not, every dot that you see on that scatter plot is an actual plan selected by a real patient over the last several years. And so on the bottom row, you have the down payment. This, by the way, excludes painfuls. And on the vertical axis, you see monthly payments. That little sort of shadowy the diagonal line is people that do 2 equals. So half today, half next month, right? But what's super interesting is how full it is. So most practices live in, this is a laser pointer. But most people live in kind of, this little area right here. Most practices, what's on paper is just right here. So yes, if you do open choice, you're going to get some that are left and down, which is a little bit tighter cash flow, what you have, but you're also going to enjoy all the plans to the right and above that you were never getting before and you would never know to ask for. There's not a lot of treatment coordinators that would even know to say, what about 3,000 down? What would you like to do there? So there's your typical plans. There's the ones that are negative to cash flow, but then you have this lovely green area that is positive cash flow. And so when you look at all of our practices, our whole fleet, look at those averages. I would challenge that for most practices is pretty close to what you're getting now. The difference is that I'm allowing all of the people in the lower left to start that may not have started with you now, because your terms were a little too tight from the get-go. These are the I have to go home and talk to my blank responses. By the way, that does not mean, in most cases, that they actually have to do that. So, I know what some of you are thinking. This is a little bit challenging, and you're thinking, okay, this sounds great for brackets, but what about Invisalign? I can't do that for Invisalign, right? I have a big lab belt. How am I going to recover that and not be upside down? Or, the true conspiracy theorists are sitting here thinking, what about the patient that starts with Invisalign and then escapes to Patagonia, never to be seen again? I'm eating the feed. So we'll chip at those. And then the last one is the historical allergy to interest. So we'll knock those pins down. So again, just to reinforce what you're looking at. So this whole concept of cash flow is dealt with this concept of aggregate open choice. So yes, there will be times where you take a $250 down on a patient that does Invisalign, and that would be a bad guy in terms of cash flow. But then you will take a $2,500 or $3,000 down payment for a case of brackets, where you're up a good $2,000. And again, it all works out. So the average same-day cash, when you average all the paid-fulls, which we tend to average higher than the industry average, we tend to be around 25, 26%. And all that stuff is very balanced. So it allows you to be more flexible without compromising your cash. So let's talk about this. It's a very kind of Zen concept, which again may be a little discomforting for you. You have to trust that the patient will choose it. I trust the patient, and I know why, because I've bought all this great data. Do you know what's super fascinating? So we're able to know what patients selected when they were in office, And we're able to compare that to what patients selected when they went home, because we have in our software the ability to go sign from home, where we send them the slider, they go home, they play with it at home, they choose their plan. What's super fascinating is that patients tend to pick handfuls at a higher rate when they're at home, and they tend to pick higher average minimum gowns when they're at home. And you're asking yourself perhaps why. Some of it is clearly they might have talked to another stakeholder that said, you know what, let's not even deal with payments. Like some of that could definitely be that. I would tell you, how many TCs do I have in the room? I love you guys, thank you guys. This should be an awesome course for you. I will say, your signature superpower is your empathy. And this is a little bit of hyper empathy. Sometimes you're diagnosing people's wallets a little bit proactively. And when they have time, they actually are picking something more. But sometimes you may think that they can't afford something and giving them the choice they will pick it. So I trust the patient. So this whole thing about defaults, they're going to get their aligners and then head for the hills. Or as soon as we take out practice, they're going to head for the hills. I can't possibly finance post-treatment. Wrong. The reason that why I know that is 95% of the defaults. We've started over 1 million patients. 95% of the defaults happen within treatment time. Default has nothing to do with, oh, they got nothing on me, I'm heading out. Default is because they overextended themselves from the get-go. They picked a payment they couldn't afford, and or they were a bad payer. They weren't a reliable payer. It is more about that than it is about whether they have braces on their teeth or not. So please, if nothing else, leave here and blow that up with a stick of dynamite. That's antiquated, it's intuitive, it's just not factual, right? The other thing, just to remind everybody, is when people think about defaults in their practice, they always think about the catastrophic nuclear option where the patient defaults on the entire treatment, right? That rarely happens. In most cases, the patient, on average, ends up paying the practice about $2,400 before they default. That's on average, which, by the way, for most of you is pretty close to your true operating cost. So what does that mean? It means, on average, the worst case scenario is break even. You didn't really lose a lot of money, you didn't make a lot of money, but that's the worst case, and it happens very rarely. So again, should we be designing our financial systems off of the threat of default? No, because you're missing a ton of upside. If you build your whole system around eliminating default, you can do it. You can be successful. You're just going to limit your growth. So let's tackle the final pin, which is interest. So this is super interesting. We looked at all the practices of ours that actively use interest and those that don't use interest, that have turned it off. We can't force them to use it. They can't turn it off in the system. What we found is that the conversion rate for practices that actively use interest is high. I am not saying here, standing in front of you, saying that interest is appealing, that people are picking interest over no interest. The reason why is because they're turned off interest, and so they control the slider and the choice. They're no longer providing open choice. And this is a cool graphic. So these are two locations in the same group practice. The one on the left doesn't use interest and controls the slider the whole time, and they move the slider. And the one on the right lets the patient choose. And you can see that graphically because on the left, it's all very clustered around their advertised rates and what they propose. And the one on the right gives the patient the power of choice. And what you see here is the conversion rate, this TRC, treatment recommended conversion rate, is much, much higher. The same-day cash, what the patient actually chose in terms of average gown, is higher. The average payment length is actually a little bit lower, even though this location was in a low average economic household index. So we know open choice works. And we have an algorithm. So again, like what offer you're getting is different depending on what the patient gives us on their intake information. and we balance it and function it out. So again, you don't need OrthoFi, but you do need a smart system. And you got to have great processes. If you're going to be more flexible, you have to be steady, courteous, and consistent. So this is not something that you're going to batch and call people once a week or once every other week. You know how that works. Every patient needs to be on the same contact cadence when it comes to their accounts receivable, or you're going to start to see erosion. And again, we know from doing this for now 10 years that this works. So this approach is currently yielding about 42% lower total AR delinquency versus the gauge average. So the last bit, and why I love data, is data seems very impersonal, and it seems like every one of you, I'm sure, have thought that, well, the data's cool, but my patients are different. And trust me, the data wins. Trust the data. So what this shows basically is we took all of our practices and we sized them to be exactly the same size, as if they were exactly the same size. And we looked at the results in terms of conversion rate from using our actual data configuration. We have what we call our optimized configuration, doing it the way the algorithm wants you to do it. And then we look at all the practices that are customizing it and jerry-rigging it the way they want. And we do have a conservative configuration, practices that don't fully buy in, and so we looked at that. So those that picked conservative, obviously, were trying to minimize default risk. And they were able to reduce default risk a little bit. So in the average practice that picked conservative, it was about $8,000 less default than the practices that used optimized. But look how much production they gave up. They gave up almost $350,000 of production by protecting themselves from growth. And then the practices that were using the custom configuration that thought they could game the system, they saw similar conversion rate, not quite as high, but then they saw a lot more default and write-off. So our data is pretty impressive. And so when you look at all these things, that's what creates that balance. And it gets better. That's the cool thing about data, is that we keep amassing more of it. So as we see trends, we're influencing the algorithm all the time. So again, we're going to be talking about this part of this process most of today. It's all about that call to the consult, to the contract. And initially we thought we're going to just build this. And then we realized how busy practices are doing everything else but this, mostly around revenue cycle management, dealing with insurance companies, calling patients, and all this stuff, to where they were not focused enough on this and weren't actually leveraging and maximizing the tools, which is why we added the whole insurance part, the whole patient part, so that we could get that outside the four walls, so that everyone in the practice can be focused on getting patients to start and taking advantage of the life-changing care. So that's why we have it. Now that said, we're really happy and excited. We're launching a product called OrthoFi Yes at this meeting. So if you guys have an awesome revenue cycle management team that is just doing everything exactly the way you want it, you can still take advantage of this awesome patient acquisition platform. And so we just have that piece as software. So we're going to be introducing that. Please come by tomorrow afternoon. At the end of the day, we're going to be having a cool OrthoFi Yes, which is the name of it, launch party for that. So last thing I'm going to leave you with is, again, why did we put in revenue cycle management? Because we know, even before we had all this data, this was gauge data that was published, showing how much leakage there actually is. So they actually looked at practices and they tracked of the people that called and then created exams, and the whole waterfall of how much actually leaks out before you get to the final number of starts. And it's pretty notable. And it's not that practices are incompetent or they just don't understand patient behavior. It's that people are just too busy doing too many different things, wearing too many different hats. And my TCs especially know that. You've got a lot on your collective plates. And so we thought, if we can take this on for you, we can create a halo effect of getting everyone focused on what they need to be doing and growing the practice. And we've been able to see that over the last 10 years. So that's why it is what it is. And of course, regardless, you can have great results if you adopt these philosophies and have some protocols and tools. It's all about people, process, and technology. It doesn't have to be this one, but it does have to be something. So I encourage you to have a great show. I am thrilled to bring up my next speaker. As I mentioned, Brian Wright, he's a fabulous guy. He has a great take. He will challenge you, so buckle up. But it is my pleasure to introduce Brian Wright.
Testing, we're good. Hey everybody, how are you? So while they're getting that hooked up, a couple things that have nothing to do with what we'll be talking about today, but everything to do with your success and moving forward in this event. Something called the bike shape effect. And what the bike shape effect talks about is basically receiving in so much information it keeps you from doing it. You want to lose weight, and therefore you start looking up 27 diet plans. Next thing you know, 6 months is going by, and you haven't lost a pound. All you need to do is get on the floor and do push-ups. We overcomplicate things. So when you come to an event like this, and you see thousands of pieces of information, stuff that Oliver's going to talk or just talked about, stuff that I'm about to talk about, Dr. Reynolds, Danielle, and all the other speakers, very much like when you go back to your practice, you don't have this happening. And you have a ton of things you want to do, that you intend to do, and absolutely zero gets done. So I encourage you all to pick 3 things, whether it's from what I talk about, what Oliver just talked about, Dr. Reynolds, or anyone you see. Doesn't mean you can't take more and take notes, of course, but pick 3 things when you go back to your practice and only focus on those 3 things. That is it. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, that's at the very last slide. So if you want to, it's okay. I'll get it when I get up there. The other one, and this is related to what Oliver just talked about, is belief perseverance. We as humans, if we really believe in something, we will a lot of times even ignore facts and discredit the source. And I'll give you an example. Who in here has ever had a patient default on a payment? I mean, if the whole room doesn't raise their hand, and I've got some, oh no, I have trust issues with this room. So what happens a lot of times in practices, and I've seen it over and over and over again, is that you do not extend payment plans. 18-month Invisalign case as an example, you don't go 24 months because 1 or 2 patients, they didn't pay you properly 3 years ago. We end up in this industry creating our protocols and our systems around the minority, around the few. You've got to create the protocol around the majority, regardless of if the minority didn't pay you in the past. Right? And that's hard because we get this in our mind that no one's going to pay us just because 1 or 2 people didn't pay us. That payment slider works, open choice works, but again, you have to look beyond what you believe and look at the data. I am going to put this up here really quick. Everybody stand up for me while we're doing that. You guys all traveled in today. Loosen up. Loosen up, Steph. So I've been told we're on YouTube live right now, so she told me to just like stand right here.
Yeah, right.
I'm not on the camera, which she's screwed because I don't know how to stand. I don't know how to stand still. So I appreciate everybody coming. We're going to talk about some cool things today. And yeah, it's a funny video, huh? So hi, everybody. Hello, team. Who in here, I'm going to see if you're awake. Who in here would like to work less and live more? If anybody doesn't raise their hand, you're being kicked out of the room for sure. Anybody want to make more and work less? Employees, raise your hand. Doctors, you can't raise your hand yet. Employees, all raise your hand. Okay, we have quite a few. All right, now doctors, raise your hand. Cool. Now the reality is you can sit down. All right, now I've got you warmed up, so now you have no excuse whenever you get picked on to answer this question now. But the reality is we don't necessarily work less and make more in this industry. This industry, and you come to events like this, and I see speakers that are from within the practice turned consultant, which we're completely different. We come from outside your world, and for 10 years we've been inside your world. But everything we look at is very, very different from people that have been inside the practice environment. And I look at events like this and I see people almost telling others how excited they are about how busy they brag about it. We're busy, our advertising budget's $100,000 a year, we're making a ton of money, we've got a team of 15, and they go around and they just brag about these things. It's almost like the chaos is rewarded in this industry, but it doesn't have to be that way. There is a way to work less, make more. There's a way to have more fun at the practice. There's a way to have all the chaos of hiring, training, all of these things that as business owners and as employees deal with. It doesn't have to be that way. There is a way to grow significantly while needing less and spending less at the same time. If you were shopping and you came across 2 jars of yogurt that looked like this and you had any interest in being healthy, which one would you pick? Who in here would pick that contains 10% fat? Never to this day have I ever seen one person. Well, you got one, kind of half. All right, you're the first person that it wasn't even like a big one. It was like a little tiny little one. Who in here would pick 90% fat free? Right? And it's because of how it's presented, right? When you come and you look at the image that's created in your mind between these two, 90% fat free is clearly the more attractive one, but it has nothing to do, and I'll talk more about this, it has nothing to do with whether or not it's better. Right? We haven't tasted these 2 yogurts. We just know the one on the right is being presented to us in a way that is more appealing. Who would pick that steak over the one on the right? Who wants the steak on the left? Man, if anybody raises their hand. Now put your hand down. Really? Who would pick the right? Obviously, right? Because it's presented better. It looks better. But the interesting thing about this is we haven't tasted it. When you bite into either one of those, you never know. Maybe the one on the left actually was flavored better. Maybe it actually was cooked inside better. But we go on the decision based on how that is presented. Now look at this. Which is the busier, more successful practice? Who in here says the one on the left? Quite a few that is presented. Now look at this. Which is the busier, more successful practice? Who in here says the one on the left? Quite a few hands. Who's the one on the right? Not as many hands. So you've been trained, again, in this industry to automatically think that if you're not busy, you're not successful. Almost everybody, when I present these slides, says, oh, the one on the left, they're clearly busier, they're clearly making more money. And we all have our own lenses, if you will. We all perceive the world in a different way. And based on how things are presented to us and our own personal bias, that's how we make our decisions. Whether it be the vision you have for your business, or those 3 things that I just showed you. Because again, nobody tasted the yogurt. All we know is one's presented better. No one tasted the food, one was presented better. And no one dug into those practices just visually. Just visually, the one on the left looks more successful. And what that all is the framing effect. And I really want you all to take a lot of snapshots of these. This is a mindset change that is so, so critical that we're going to talk about today with the power of persuasion that we're going to dive into here momentarily. Framing effect is a cognitive bias. We all have it. And inevitably, what the framing effect talks about is how you can get people to draw different conclusions based off of the same exact information. All right? Just like we just did from the yogurt, the 10% contains 10% fat. It's the exact same thing as 90% fat food. The exact same information presented differently to get you to draw a different conclusion. And how we have to do that is through the domino effect. It's the order of which you speak, the language and how the words are used, and what comes out of your mouth and what way it comes out of your mouth can literally make or break whether somebody shows up to the appointment for their new patient exam, whether or not they complete to it. They've asked the same darn questions on a new patient call, then you send paperwork and they have to fill it out again. And then they show up and you ask them again and you give no indication you ever even read it. So that's the consumer's perception. All right, so no matter what you want, our brains work in images. As you speak, and a doctor sees as you speak, perceptionists as you speak, our minds flip every word we hear into an immediate photo. So how you speak, the order in which you speak, literally can make or break that price shopper actually seeing value in you to buy at $7,000 when the other 3 opinions are $5,000. It's all presentation. You can get anything you want in your career. Employees, if you want to raise, you can get it if you know how to present it right to your superior, to your leadership team. All these things on here, price shoppers. If you get, who gets frustrated? Someone comes in and doesn't want to buy from you, and they try to nickel and dime you, right? pretty much the whole room, right? But what you have to remember is what did you do along that consumer journey to have them see any value in why you're $2,000 more than the other three things? And you have to have this mindset. It's hard. If you want to increase your prices and your conversion, which is what we teach, we're a whole company about less chaos, less. This whole industry teaches more. All of you in this room need less. You have hundreds of thousands of dollars leaking out of your practices every single year. I'm going to show it with some data and some examples here in just a little bit. If you want to increase the down payment you receive, if you want to increase referrals, all these things, you just have to learn how to present it in a different way. And it's all through presentation skills, which we're going to work on hard today. You guys ready to role play? Who wants to come up and use my microphone today?
Dr. Steinhardt.
What did you just say?
I said Dr. Steinhardt.
Right here, take a picture of it. 10 years ago, I founded this company. It was all based on you are telling a story to the consumer. All right, it's an immersive experience journey. It's learning to go beyond with unexpected hospitality and break past the mode of normal. See, the consumer expects things. They expect paperwork that they have to print out. They expect you not even to read it. They expect a standard new patient call. It's just a data collection call. They expect to sit in your waiting room when they walk in. Every single one of these steps, and the clear aligner growth there, that may be something. You may be doing light force, some other type of braces, whatever it is. That's just our company. We work with practices. It's not only, but the majority of our practices have an interest in increasing their clear aligner share to share. And they do that because it reduces the chaos. So that's why this slide is in there. But every single, once they buy existing patient experience, you have to ask yourself, how unexpected hospitality are you via every consumer interaction on that slide? Employees, doctors, do you feel that your team understands how to handle every single touch point along that consumer journey to offer unexpected hospitality? I'm going to show some good examples today, because if you set this up differently, it's a better experience for you as a leader, your employees, and inevitably your customer that you want to buy from you. Power of persuasion, everybody, welcome in. And this is how to reinvent, reimagine the new patient onboarding experience for the new economy. The new economy, I get asked all the time, what do I mean by that? And what I mean by it is a couple things. One, you are all living in an industry where shoppers exist and they view you as a commodity. I know that's a dirty word, doesn't sound appealing, but whenever you're viewed as a commodity in any industry for the people that you are trying to get to buy from you, the whole game changes. The sale is no longer your clear aligner or your braces, and the reason is they can get that 3 doors down from you. It's all about experience and a no like trust factor. That's a big thing that we're going to teach today. The other one, and this is a big one in my opinion. You've got a consumer that's very different, but that consumer is also you. The new economy also talks about how the consumer's attention span, I'm going to show it today, is very short. But you all are consumers too. This industry loves to talk about the patient, but all of your attention spans are just as short as the patient's. So you leaving here and having the ability to only focus on 3 key things you hear from speakers today, you leaving here and doing that is very, very difficult, more difficult than ever before, because of how many messages. We're getting over 10,000 marketing messages. You'll see that slide here in just a little bit, according to Forbes. More than 10,000 marketing messages each one of us see every single day. We live on our phones. We're distracted, and that is part of this new economy as well that we'll dive in. The power of persuasion. So let's get rolling with this. Take a screenshot of this. That is awesome. Oliver did not tell me this, but I heard him talk about how some of you responded to him and said, don't you need the power of persuasion? The Power of Persuasion, obviously a very popular book by Robert Tallman, New York Times bestseller. But he has a better one that is much lesser known, and it's called The Power of Persuasion. And inevitably what the power of persuasion is how you get people sympathetic, empathetic, and loyal to your brand prior to ever even hearing your sales pitch. Basically, you're getting them to buy from you prior to them ever even arriving to your place of business. This is an extremely powerful one, and if you get this, and if you look along the consumer journey, this is the power of persuasion. All right, this is leading up to the time they pull into your parking lot. All right, it is how you run your business from a culture standpoint, exceptional leadership, how innovative you are as a business, how you do your online marketing completely different than anybody else in the industry or outside the industry for that matter. How the new patient phone call goes, and then once the new patient phone call is over, what happens in that downtime prior to them walking through the door? And with most practices, you'll see it today, it's pretty much the same. And the person that, maybe not to you, but the person that you're trying to go, here's my $6,000, here's my $7,000 or $8,000, to them, the industry is the same. And we've got to change that. And that's how you charge higher dollar, and it's how you get them to pair with a great clinician. Instead of going to the worst in the community, they go to the best, which hopefully is all of you. All right, so check us out really quick. And I have this on a couple slides. The reason why I pulled this up is because those 3 podcasts have a lot to do with those that I have circled. All right, we have a podcast that I come out to, a temporary radio show. We don't do guests, we rarely do them. It comes out at the beginning of every month, right around the first business day, right in there. And it's just me behind a mic, and I'm telling stories, and those 3 right there dive heavily into this power of persuasion. Why is it so powerful if we can do things differently to create images in people's minds before they walk into your door? The halo effect. Anyone ever buy a car that just stunk? It broke down a lot, it was a lemon, it was just a piece of crap. We got some hands going up. Would you ever buy that type of car again? What'd you say? Here, sit into the mic.
No.
Hi there, how are you? All right. Nice to meet you. So she says no. But here's what happens. What type of car was it?
It
Ferrari? It was a CRV? Honda? Yeah, there you go. So what if every Honda CRV ever made was perfect, except for hers? Right? She's still going to think they suck. She's not even going to give them a second chance. She's perceiving the whole Honda corporation, most likely, as being crap. Right? But she's only had one experience with it, but that's how she's portraying her whole mindset on Honda. But it works the other way around. What if you got that Honda, that same car, and it was amazing? Did you buy another one? Oh yeah. Even if all the other ones were the lemons. And we do this with businesses all the time. And the halo effect, you have a good waiter at a restaurant. You leave going, wow, those waiters are great. Well, they all stop maybe, except for the one you had. Or you leave and you had one bad waiter, and you leave going, man, those people are terrible. Even though the rest of them may be great. And that's the halo effect. If we like a little piece of the whole, a little piece of the pie, we automatically portray that type of thinking onto the whole organization. If we think, wow, that new patient call, that lady, poor guy, man, they were so passionate. I never had a call. That is so rare. We'll never experience a call like that in my life. If they have things happen prior to walking through the door in the downtime that you're going to learn today, all of a sudden they are thinking, this organization is different. They're unique. They're innovative. I've never had people speak to me like this before. One of the things we're going to work on here in just a bit. Imagine scheduling at a restaurant for the first time. You hang up the phone, and boom, on your phone comes a text message, and it's the head chef going, hey, Mr. Wright, I want to welcome you into our family. Let me take you on a tour around our kitchen. I've been a chef for about 10 years. I have all kinds of awards. Can't wait for you and your family to dine with us. What would you think of that restaurant if you got a video like that? Amazing. You may even think, wow, this food is going to be amazing, even though the video has nothing to do with food. That's the halo effect, and it's extremely, extremely powerful. All of this right now, I'm going to be giving you ideas the rest of today. In this hour and a half, you're going to go back with information that will grow you $1, 2, 3, 4, $500,000 this year if you implement it at a high level. The challenge, though, with the new economy is, will you implement it and commit to the process of getting it implemented? Reducing the chaos, reducing the no-shows, increasing starts at higher dollar. All can be done with this power of persuasion, so we can work less and live more. Starting with culture. This is something that I'm extremely passionate about. It is, if you ask me what am I most passionate about in life, it's a culture thing, because it can't be stolen. People can steal your employees, they can get paid more, maybe somewhere else they leave. They can steal your ideas, they can steal your techniques. They cannot steal your culture. And your mindset, doctors, if you go back and you let ideas not get implemented into your practice, that's a culture killer. The employees will think coming to events like this is just a waste of time. It's a way for you to get drunk on nights, right? But that's what it is. If you always are going to events and coming back and no change happens, why would your employees ever take you seriously when you actually were serious finally about implementing something? Right? So sunscreen. My plastic surgery days before I started this company. The United States of America, and this is why what you're going to learn today from Dr. Reynolds and Danielle as well, and what Oliver has taught. This is all related to you looking in the mirror. The United States of America uses more sunscreen than all other countries in the world combined. But yet we have more skin cancer cases than all other countries in the world combined. So you say to yourself, well, what the hell is that all about? We use more sunscreen, we should have less. Well, the realization is the United States of America eats more processed foods than all other countries in the world combined. Which shows there's nothing you can do on the outside that literally comes close to what goes on the inside. And that exact same thing is true for your business. There's no amount of advertising that's going to fix your no-shows. There's no amount of advertising that's going to get you a better patient. There's no amount of advertising that's going to get people to buy from you. All of that stuff through the consumer journey is all controlled inside your doors. But it's a challenge because you have to look in the mirror. Now, this right here is a marketing plan from the most famous businesses in the world. You watch the Shark Tank, every company they have, this is what they go by. 70% of what they do is focused on things inside their doors. Customer service, sales training, experience training, whatever it may be. The Ritz-Carlton, which I'll pull up in a minute, requires 250 hours of training with every employee before they're allowed to say one word to a prospective customer on the phone or people in person. All right, inside your doors. 25% of that was online and 5% paid. And that paid could be television commercials, whatever it may be. The change in this economy that all of you have to make, and if you walk away with one thing from here, this would be it, is you must obsess over customer, not your product, not your service. You must obsess over your customer. How do we greet them when they walk through the door? How do we set the business up in a way where they don't wait? How do we constantly be pushing the hourly employees that we have on our team to get better at hospitality, experience, sales? Because it's an infinite world. You're never there. There's always another step, a deeper layer that you can go. All right? And here's a stat that proves it. This was a stat I've used a lot and recently changed because they did the study again. And it's actually gone up from 88%. So now 91% of people surveyed by Harris Interactive. This is in healthcare, by the way. This is also restaurants. They did it throughout a whole aura of different businesses. 91% of the people said that they would choose and or remain with the business because of the quality of their customer service, their experience, over whether or not they were any good at what they did. So basically, the consumer is telling us that you're better off sucking at what you do, but giving me a darn good experience along the way than the other way around. And that is a huge mindset shift because you have to remember the consumer can relate to the non-clinical things that you do in the office. They can relate to the phone call. They can relate to how your website looks. They can relate to the video marketing you can do, or that you do. They relate to, did you greet them when they walk through the door? They can relate to all of those things. They cannot differentiate a better clinician from a not so good clinician. They can't, which is why the not so good clinician, they're winning if the team knows how to sell it better. That is the world you live in when the consumer you are trying to get to buy from you views you as a commodity. If you're the best clinician, your team has to sell why you're the best clinician. They got to be able to showcase that you're the best. Last story here, and then we're going to move to example shift a lot of you have to make. Some of you know a little bit of this story, but not too many people know how in-depth it actually was. Netflix went to Blockbuster's CEO and presented them their idea. I said, here it is, here's the future. The Blockbuster CEO at the time loved the idea. He went to the board of Blockbuster and said, here it is, we got to do this. We got to either buy them or partner with them. And Netflix at the time was trying to get them to buy them. And the board of Blockbuster said, no way. 13% of our revenues come from late fees. We can't do that. So Blockbuster sabotaged their entire existence because of late fees. You all have to be forward-thinking enough to realize the data on the paper a lot of times doesn't tell you the truth. And you have to be forward thinking enough to always improve, innovate. On the non-clinical side, just like docs, hopefully you're obsessed with doing on the clinical side. So critical. Let's look at downtime and then also online marketing. These two are entwined, all right? And I'm going to talk a little bit really quick about some data. This is really, we are big on YouTube marketing for this data reason right here. One, YouTube is the world's second largest search engine. According to Google, it will surpass them in under 5 years. All right, next one. According to Google, well, I just said that one, over 90% of Gen Z start their search on a video-based platform, and it's still YouTube, and there's others creeping up, but YouTube is still the king of the hill. On mobile alone, YouTube reaches more 18 to 49-year-olds than any broadcast or cable TV network. We live in a video world. Search rankings, and this is the most important one you can take from this, your search rankings, because Google bought YouTube, they did it many years ago. Your search rankings on Google are now intertwined and dependent on the videos you're doing on YouTube around those same search terms. Google will reward you if you do videos around the search terms, because Google's new business model is to sell advertising on YouTube. And the more YouTube videos you do, the more advertising they can sell. So they reward that behavior over on Google, right? So how can we take the king of the hill and how can we turn this into a really cool experience after the new patient phone call is over? We're going to work back to the new patient phone call after this. Let's talk about normal. Phone call is over. What happens in your practice? You don't take on it. Don't you know if you sit in front and you get picked on?
I'm clinical.
You're clinical, so you have no idea what goes on. Clinical. Okay, health history form, okay, via text. Is that something they have to print out? So they can do it right on their phone. Does anyone in here have something they have to print out? Is anyone in here too embarrassed to raise their hand if they have it? Because I know that there's at least one or two. So does anything else happen during that time? Okay, so automated text reminders, anyone else do that? Your automated text reminders? Does anybody pick up the phone and call people to confirm? All right, I'm gonna teach you ways today that you never do that again the rest of your life. Because all of that effort should be put into your customer. Get them a bottle of water, make them a cup of coffee, greet them when they walk through the door, show them around your office, whatever it may be, all of that admin work, get it out of there. The admin stuff creates the chaos. Too many braces, admin work, those are your two chaoses that if you lower them, your stress goes away. It's easier. I'm not saying don't do braces. What you have to realize is braces, more appointments. The more you grow, the more you work. If you lose an employee, the training's hell to retrain somebody else. Right? That's the chaos, and it's how the clinical mindset still affects the business world inside the practice. All right, so that's normal. Most people, appointment confirmation calls, text message reminders, you send out paperwork, and the other one is you're verifying insurance, right? Who verifies insurance in here? Is that fun? Isn't that awesome dealing with them? Like, wouldn't you rather be able to make somebody a cup of coffee and greet them and have an OrthoFi do that so it's all automated to where you could focus your attention on something else? All right, but let's look at now what going beyond looks like. How do we create a downtime experience that builds this halo effect, that builds this persuasion in their mind? You all have to remember, and here's that data that I told you earlier that I was going to show. According to Microsoft, we're stupid. I mean, that might hey, framing effect, right? To me, they're just saying it differently. But to the framing effect, you know, the 10% fat, that jar says you're an idiot. And then the other jar says it like this. You know, the average consumer attention span has dropped down to 8 seconds. Like this. You know, the average consumer attention span has dropped down to 8 seconds. Right? It's a decrease from 12 seconds 23 years ago. But a goldfish, the real ones, not the crackers that my little kids eat, the real ones have a higher attention span than a human. So you have to remember when you hang up the phone, what's going on? They are distracted. You have to find a way to stand out because they've also been hit with 10,000 marketing messages every single day, according to Forbes, data you heard earlier, right? So the distraction's not just us, it's the person, again, you're trying to get to show up, right? And there's other ways to get them to show up, but this is, people are shopping. This is according to multiple sources, not just the couple you see on there. that people are entering up to 3 practices before making a buying decision. And that buying decision may mean I'm not going to do anything at all. Right? It doesn't mean they actually pay the money. And so this stuff is real. People are shopping. We've got to stand out. And this is why new patient no-shows happen. They happen for a few reasons. One, there's too many roadblocks. They have to print out the paperwork. The paperwork's too long. It asks too many questions. The way it's delivered to them. The paperwork is a roadblock. It must be digital. Must be digital. If you're in here and you may not want to raise your hand, if they have to print out a PDF from home, boom, there's one of the reasons why people no-show. They don't want to do it. It's inconvenient, that is not an experience. And if the other opinion they said was send something digital and you have to print out, where am I going? And what does the digital represent from a halo effect standpoint? It represents the whole practice. They're digital, they're ahead, they're convenient, right? So you have to think of these things. But look at what it does to your numbers. New patient no-shows, and I love it, whenever we talk, and like we have a no-show problem. But if you have 1 or 2 a month, that's a problem. 1 or 2 a month is $100,000+ of revenue a year lost. That if you would just get 70% of those no-shows back to your door, into your door to begin with, think how much growth you would have had last year over what you did. But just 3 of them a month, if you charge $6,000, look how much that adds up. And these are things that a lot of practices don't track, and I'm convinced in this industry, the reason you don't track it is you blame the patient. And we hear it all the time, we need better patients. Ask the patient's fault they no-showed us, we didn't want them anyway. We hear it all the time. It's not them, it's you. There are ways to get them to show up. I love reducing people's no-shows because it's fail-proof. It works every single time, all right? $151,000 a year, a little over, with just 3 no-shows a month. 151 grand at a 70% treatment acceptance. If you're 80, good for you. But that also means you're losing even more money than the 70% by not having people walk through the door. So what can we do different? What can we do to remove these admin headaches and automate these things? And boom, it starts with a practice welcome video. Just like I said from the chef, right? We've got to offer unexpected hospitality, but the beauty is once this video is shot, I'm going to show you an example here in a second, goes on your YouTube station. Then every time you get a new patient, they click on it, increases your YouTube views, builds your online authority, boom, your Google search rankings go up. Work smarter, not harder. Okay? Stop calling people, hunting them down for appointment confirmations when all you have to do is click a button. Now, OrthoFi, and a couple of you I think are OrthoFi users. This is the reason I'm obsessed with outsourcing things for a practice. There's so many reasons. This is one of a million. But then the email and everything is generated for you. Put the information in, concierge email is sent out. You don't lift a finger. You can customize that email. So you can put in that welcome video, just a link that they can click on. You can put whatever you want in there. And boom, done. It's a streamlined approach where you don't have to do anything. It's done for you. Let's look at an example of a welcome video. I just got back from Randy Wright. He's here in Chicago. Just got back last week, I think, from his practice. And I picked his video on purpose. Randy is the nicest person you'll ever want to meet, but one of the worst on camera you'll ever want to meet. Hopefully he's not in here, because he is coming to the event. If you are here. But he is scared out of his mind. All right, so I picked this because a lot of people don't like being on camera, right? And remember, you're orthodontic industry. You're not shooting and selling 4K video equipment. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? There's 2 rules, just like social media. You can't be drunk, and you gotta wear clothes. Other than that, anything goes, okay? Let's watch this one.
Hi, I'm Dr. Randy Wright, and I'd like to welcome you to our OrthoFi meeting. We're all very excited that you chose to spend your valuable time with us. I have a wonderful team that are not only great employees, but they're great people with big hearts. We have such fun times together with our patients. In fact, I suggest you check out
Took
our
about 72 takes.
Instagram and YouTube pages. We have a lot of fun around here. One of my favorite things to share with you is our 3D iTero Smile Simulation. It's so exciting to see the transformation, taking your teeth from the current position into a simulated smile result. There's a lot of work we dedicate to giving you a great smile. The technology is so amazing, and again, I look forward to sharing it with you. Something I'm really proud of is being one of the area's top providers.
I'm going to keep going just for time purposes. But the idea, like with the iTero,
and I've spoken for Invisalign for about 6 years, and we see the data. A lot of you use the iTero as a records machine. The iTero machine is a sales tool. That's what it is, first and foremost. So it should be used on your new patient exam every single time. If you don't like the outcome simulator, that's a good thing because it's a way for the team member, usually the TC, to edify why you're needed. Like the technology only takes us so far. That's why the artist, doctor, whoever, right? It's actually a good thing that doesn't come out great. But the welcome video, again, is just, and we have ones where it's just selfie style. It's one and done, and it's just quick, it goes on YouTube. And that's something all of you, by the end of Monday morning, or Tuesday, whenever you open up again, you should have your welcome video. Just get somebody, stick a phone in your face, make it 25 seconds, get it on your YouTube station, start sending it out right after. If you're OrthoFi users, it'll go out via the email. If you're not, as it stands today, you're gonna have to manually text that out. Right? But just start. This is get stuff done. Right? As an entrepreneur, the best, the most famous, they have an easy philosophy. I'm going to get it right later, but I'm going to do now. Right? Suck done better than great sitting on the shelf. Suck wins every time. Just do it and start getting it out, and you will see the results. All right? The next one is where are we? There we go. So early verification of insurance. This is something, if you have roadblocks with your paperwork, and I see this with our OrthoFi practices time and time again, that the early adoption, completing their paperwork, significantly is higher than ones who are not using OrthoFi. If there's any barriers, whether it be they have to click a link and it sends them somewhere, and then they've got to log in and create an account, whatever it may be, any barriers, people are less likely to do it unless your receptionist is an unbelievable salesperson, which I'm going to show you how to be here soon, right? You've got to reduce the roadblocks. You've got to stop spending time fighting with these insurance companies because it creates a stress. And the patient can feel it, the employees can feel it. It's a bad employee experience. And as you all know, if they don't have their paperwork filled out and you don't have their insurance verified when they walk through the door, you think you're going to start them today? Nope. And if for whatever reason you do, you're going to be chasing your you-know-what while they're there trying to get everything, which creates the chaos. And admin responsibilities create the chaos in your office. So I'm going to go through this really quick just for time purposes. This is usually questions I actually ask, but we're going to keep rolling through those. But one here, the adoption rate. So all of that work, think about all the work you do to verify insurance, all the headaches of waiting on hold, because God knows the insurance companies love to say hold, or you can't even hear anybody say hold because they don't answer, right? So you're just, silent waiting there. All the work that goes into it, only to have an industry that adopts and fills out their paperwork is less than 50% prior to walking through the door. Sounds like a lot of work for not a lot of success, but there's a better way, all right? There's a better way, and it's got to be digital. I know I've said that, but this is step 2. That welcome video goes out. And if you go back to your practice, and one of the 3 things that you say, I'm going to focus on, is make sure your paperwork is easy. Don't be the practice that asks them 9,000 unnecessary questions. Like I've seen some of the orthodontic paperwork, and we come from a patient's perspective, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you're trying to get a life story here. I'm coming in to get my teeth straightened. And that's how they think. And you don't want people thinking that way about you. We've got to go digital. And this insurance eligibility reinvented, this is the other piece. Think about all the times you are fighting with insurance companies, trying to get them to answer. You may have to call the patient back because the insurance was wrong, or they didn't complete it to begin with. It's all streamlined with OrthoFi. All right, again, I speak for them because I believe in them if you use the tools. It's still a tool. It's the same thing with any of the outsource partners. You got to use it right. And when you use it right, there's so many headaches that you currently face now that you can re-engage and focus back on hospitality, on role plays, blocking time to get better as a team. The chaos ends or lessens when you have outsource partners that can do some of this stuff for you. And employees, if you hear me talk about this, it's not trying to get you fired, by the way. Hey, you got an insurance bill? Just get rid of it. No, that's not. You said you verify insurance, right? Where's your doctor? Are they in here? Yeah. I was going to tell them to fire. I'm just kidding. But there's just a different way. And the other way, this cheat sheet, this is one of my favorites because, again, we're obsessed with hospitality and just coming up with ways to blow people away. When people walk through your door, part of the VIP greeting should be speaking to them in a very clear way, showing them you actually read the paperwork. So the cheat sheet on this, they'll tell you I play soccer, or I'm in choir, whatever it may be, right? So you can learn a little about their life, and it goes way more in depth than just that, to where you can greet people when they walk through the door and say, Joey, we see that you play soccer and you sing in the choir. It's amazing. We have so many patients here. You're going to fit right in. Let's get started. Boom. Now mom's standing there knows you actually read the paperwork. The receptionist should have told her you would, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. All right? The goal is how you greet people and offer unexpected hospitality. It's not chasing your you-know-what on the admin responsibilities in your office. Let's look at downtime again. Let me keep going. I switched some slides right before I started, so I'm going to make sure. Oh, yeah, there we go. So, communicating insurance coverage, or verifying it, is very important. But something arguably even more important is communicating that insurance coverage prior to them walking through the door. Right? I believe OrthoFi's got data that shows you have a 14% increase in same-day starts. When the patient knows their coverage prior to entering the practice, they view it as a coupon. Maybe mom has time to talk to dad. They can go over those things. They're prepared when they walk through your door. All right? 14% increase just by communicating. Where our goes is how can we communicate that in a really cool way? We don't want to communicate it via email or via words and a text. We want to communicate this in a really cool custom. So the other one was the welcome video was one and done. You shoot the practice welcome video one time. This is a custom video. TC selfie it, goes out 48 hours prior to them coming in, at minimum 24, 72 if you want. But it's part of this downtime drip. And the drip becomes more important the farther you schedule them out. Right? If for whatever reason you have to schedule someone out 2 weeks, which is a good sign because you're busy, but there's also problems that come with that. The better your receptionist better be, and the better these downtime concepts better be. Because you can drip them this unexpected content. And it goes something like this.
Good morning, Ms. Johnson and Emma. I'm Stephanie, the treatment coordinator here at Williams Orthodontic. I just wanted to virtually pop in and meet you guys and also let you know I'm here to guide you along the whole journey. And I've been doing some research on your benefits. You have $1,500 of orthodontic coverage, which is awesome, and going to help us get Emma started right away. I am here to help, so please don't hesitate to reach out, and I can't wait to see you guys on Thursday.
So that video is a 3-hour workshop in itself. There is so much psychology, 7 psychological terms put into that short 20, 30, 40 seconds, whatever it was. And if you think she looks familiar back there, she's the one that did the TC video for us. Hello. You can always see her with her clothes because, well, see her tomorrow. She'll probably look like a tooth. But she can blind you with how bright her clothes are. But again, TC, and people talk, I am convinced the reason why most companies are average, not average with what they actually do, but average from an experience standpoint, and we can all probably count them on one hand of companies we've dealt with in our lives that truly blow us away. That is truly unexpected hospitality, which why if you stand out in the best of ways like a sore thumb, right? Because we haven't had that many interactions with companies that are great. And the reason I believe, among other things, is that it's more work. It's more work for a TC to hold up her phone and shoot a video. But if you implement a lot of this unexpected hospitality, if you learn where to outsource, it all becomes so easy. The stress goes down, never goes away, but it goes down. The chaos goes down, and there's so many benefits. TCs, implement that Monday, Tuesday. Just start, boom. Just what she just did right there. Selfie it, text it out, you'll get immediate response. The other one is a virtual tour appointment reminder. Now, you may be saying, what if we schedule them tomorrow? How the heck are we going to go through these all? And you probably can't. But you're going to have to pick and choose. The idea is that the longer they're scheduled out, like I was saying, the more content you can drip them. This is Jeff Pascal's practice in Georgia. And what I'm about to show you replaces the need for you to ever pick up the phone again and hunt people down, right? And once the receptionist starts talking the way we're going to teach next, your no-shows will go way, way down with you working less. all right? This. Now, a lot of this is our digital marketing photographers are there and stuff. But this is, again, something you can do with an iPhone. People know when they're supposed to show it. You don't need to customize it every time. Same thing for time purposes. Let's keep rolling. But you see, that's one and done. This is how you work a little bit more right now to work way less down the road. And again, one practice, if I'm scheduling in 3 practices, which people are, by the way, we're about to dive into that with the phones. Receptionist, raise your hand here. Are you too scared to raise your hand? Or you hardly even say? What's this like? Get way up there. Did you wear deodorant tonight? You should be proud. Get them up there. Receptionist. All right, we have a couple. You're going to be picked on here in just a minute. But also, the better you are, the less the no-shows are and the same day starts. This is the biggest key to this puzzle that we're about to talk about now. So much so I started my own company all based on this because so many people from New Patient Group asked me to. But this right here is something I'm very, very, very passionate about. And it's phones. The phone experience in America, it sucks. When's the last time you called, and it actually gets even worse once you buy somewhere. So it's the existing customer phone that's even worse. They put you on hold, you can't get in touch with anybody, etc. But anybody in their life remember calling a place where you hung up and went, I'm buying. And the answer is usually in an audience, even an audience of 5,000. Very, very few hands go up, if any. And what I'm about to talk about is hard work. Like this is not, I always teach, if the speaker is saying this is easy, you better run from that speaker as fast as you possibly can. There are some easy things, welcome video, done. There are some easy things, digitalizing your paperwork. What we're about to talk about now, getting people's verbiage skills to this level is hard. But if you can do it, it will grow your practice like crazy because the biggest lost opportunity for a small business, not a corporation, for a small business is your phones. Right now, every one of you in here has $100,000 to $300,000 a year lost because of how the phones are answered. I'm going to show you some data around why. But again, people are shopping, and I want you to keep that in mind. That's our whole philosophy around why we started this company, is that people are shopping, and you have to learn the sales aspect of it. I know it's a dirty word. It doesn't need to be. It's just viewed because, again, framing effect. When you hear sales, most people in healthcare immediately think of the car dealership. That's the image that comes to your mind. So bam, you go dirty. That's not sales, right? Sales is learning how to educate in a way that places more value on what you do, as opposed to other places I can spend my time with, or I can buy from, or I can refer from, or I can share stuff on social media with. That's what sales is by definition. So there's no reason to be scared of it. You just have to have the right mind or image come to your mind. Over 70% of people would end or not even begin a relationship with that particular business because of poor phone etiquette. And poor phone etiquette, a lot of you in this industry believe that if I hire Judy and Judy's nice, she's great on the phones or she's great with patients. What you have to remember is nice is one little piece of 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. You can't teach nice. Right? There are non-teachable traits. That's one. That's one. All right? But it's only one little tiny piece to the puzzle. That doesn't mean that they're great from a sales standpoint. Let's look at this. Critical call mistakes. And how do we relate it to the new patient call? This, again, starts with a basic understanding, everybody, of what's going on in the industry. And it's this. People are shopping. They're calling upwards of 5 practices before deciding which to schedule with. Right? And a lot of times they're scheduling with up to 3 of the 5 they called. So receptionists in here, when somebody schedules with you, it doesn't mean they're showing up. A lot of times, it's like a first date. That's what a call is. If I call you, we're on a first date.
and this is embarrassing to say, you're going to think I'm a jerk, but I can't tell you how many girls back in the day, before I was married, I went and I said, you had a really good time, and I can't wait to do this again. And never called me. Because that's what just humans do. It's like if I'm going to no-show you because I bought from Joe down the street, humans are not made to call your practice back and go, you know what, I bought from the doctor 3 doors down, can you remove me from your schedule? We are created to avoid confrontation. Confrontation is not easy, especially if you're a type personality, it makes it even harder, right? So you got to remember that if somebody no-shows you, that's the equivalent of them doing what I just did to her. Man, it was great, I can't wait to see you, and never call them. It's the same exact thing. They don't see enough value in you in order to show up to your doors. So receptionists in here, and I don't think we have that many. So a lot of you are going to have to go back and relay this. You are not a data collector. And that's how most of you in this industry use them. You collect their name. You want to ask 25 questions that are completely unnecessary on the phone. You want to know their dentist. You want to know why they're coming in. You ask all these questions and leave out the most important piece. And it's selling a value on why you're better, why you're unique, why you're convenient, why you're more, you're not going to tell them this, but you're kind of building the image of why you're probably more expensive and worth it every single dime. But the way the phones are used in this industry, your name, your address, your phone number, your insurance, you're just asking questions. You're a data collector. And meanwhile, because they're calling so many places, and all the receptionists handle these situations the exact same thing. Here are the 5 new job descriptions of the receptionist and why the receptionist is the new treatment coordinator in this new economy. Just did a podcast, I think it was in February about it, that I hope you go back and listen to. Here's the reality. 1, get them the schedule. A lot of you may say, well, duh, Brian. But the reality is just because they call doesn't mean they're going to schedule. They could ask you, how much do you charge for, which we're going to show how to handle that here in just a second. Right? They may say, what does the first appointment look like? They may ask you general questions. They may not ask you hard questions. You take my insurance. What if you don't? How do you still convert them at high dollar? Right? So just because they call doesn't mean that they're going to schedule. The other one is receptionists. You have complete control on whether or not that person completes their paperwork accurately and early. You have complete control of it. The other one is you have complete control on whether or not they show up. A new patient no-show is on the receptionist, but it's also on the other roadblocks. Analog paperwork, scheduling them a million years in advance. There's other things, but the receptionist first and foremost controls that. The other one is get them psychologically prepared to buy. This is my favorite one of all of them. Receptionists, you have a direct relation on whether or not that person comes in and hands people their money. Why? Halo effect. Right? And also some verbiage, because we all have to remember is we all take it for granted in the industry, but patients don't know they can walk in and start saying they review. They have no idea. So a receptionist, if you're not selling that value, they don't know. They don't know to talk to dad before coming in. They have no idea. So therefore, if you do articulate it, now you're different than the other 4 places they're calling, because they for sure aren't saying we offer the convenience of a same-day start. We're going to talk about how to verbalize that. The other one would be memorable. We have practices, and it happens regularly. There's usually about 1 example a month, where somebody goes and writes a 5-star review on Google about the practice prior to ever walking through the door. How many of you have asked patients before for Google reviews that like you, they bought from you, and they didn't do it? It's the whole room, right? So this is getting reviews prior to them even buying from you or even showing up to your door. And it's all about being unexpected and working less in the process, all right? So let's talk about some critical phone mistakes and then we'll wrap it up. The very first one is missed calls. This is one of these data points. As an entrepreneur, we look at numbers differently than a corporation. But the beauty of the world is if you bring the points, as an entrepreneur, we look at numbers differently than a corporation. But the beauty of the world is if you bring the stats, is that the numbers that not put your finger on them. Not ask your team, not knowing how to ask for referrals properly. You can't put your finger on that, on how many referrals that costs you every single year your whole career. How many new patient calls that you miss and they went and bought somewhere else. You can't put your finger on that data. And there's hundreds of more examples, but that data costs small business owners millions of dollars and increase in chaos. Because as you miss calls, guess what you have to do? You have to spend more on advertising and get the numbers to go back up. So how you reduce the advertising is obviously converting at a higher level via every interaction on that consumer journey. Mark Cuban talks about, to get that back, looking for opportunities where others aren't. This is an industry, and this is why it's so amazing if you look inside your doors. It's so amazing when you partner with companies like an OrthoFi or others, to where they can make you unique, to where your receptionist can edify how that outsourced partner makes you better in the other practices, right? But also, I'm gonna show you some cool data here in just a second on how you miss less calls whenever you outsource or have an outsourced mentality. So creating opportunities means a lot of that, what he's talking about, is knowing you're losing business even though you can't see it on your data. And that is so, so hard for a lot of business owners to understand. Let me put this in perspective. You visit Google or you go to YouTube. Let's say you see an Invisalign commercial. Picture yourself as a consumer, or let's just say you're looking to do new flooring, or you're looking for a new hair cutter, or you need a plumber. And you hit Google, you look it up, you call them, because they probably have the best 5-star reviews on the ones you saw, and they don't answer. What do? I can tell you what you don't do is leave a message and ask them for a call back. And that's why answering services are yesterday's news. Right now, all of you right now, if somebody calls your practice as a new patient, who's answering for you? And I can promise you, if it's an answering service, they're not leaving a message. They're going right to the next flooring company, or the next plumber, or the next whatever, orthodontist on Google. And they're going to keep calling until somebody answers the phone. All right? Cool. So just some personal stories, and you've all had them. This is why I tell these. There's 3 stories. And you've all had this in your life, if you think about it. But yet, as business owners, a lot of times we then go and we, for whatever reason, think that these things aren't happening to our own business, our own practice. We needed a plumber one time. It wasn't like an insane emergency, but we needed one, and they needed to come out today. We had it handled. We had a bucket. Called plumber 1, no answer. Plumber 2, no answer. Plumber 3 answered, got the business. And she wasn't even that good on the phone, but how many are you going to call? Right? The next one, we're looking, this is my dog, Winston. He got hit in the face with a baseball bat from my son. He was out swinging the bat. Winston came up behind him. He took a swing, crushed him right in the skull. It was a bad situation. He was fine. What did we do? Vet number 1, no answer. Vet number 2, no answer. Vet number 3 answered, got the business. And they were great inside their doors, so they still get our business. And these are other businesses that are out spending money on advertising. And this happens to everybody in this room because we see the data when we're answering these missed calls for people. The last one, flooring company, wanted new wood floors for a master bedroom. Called 1, no answer. 2, no answer. 3, no answer. 4th one answered. We got the business. Boom, that one. They may not even have been better. So what happens as a patient is they're shopping around and they call practice number 1, that's you, and you're the best clinician in the United States, and you don't answer, and boom, they call practice number 2, and that clinician's fine or whatever. Who are they going to buy from? This is how the lesser clinician defeats the better clinician, one of, in this new economy. The amount of times during regular business hours, we as new patient group mystery call practices during regular business hours. It takes us an average of 3 calls to get somebody to answer. And an even cooler stat for you is our OrthoFi practices, 50% less. So it takes us, and that's still a high number, but you can see, and you ask yourself, why is it 50% less? Because there's less chaos. There's not people doing this with insurance companies. There's not people trying to verify you coming in. They're not trying to chase the patient down and fill out paperwork. All of the admin responsibilities can be refocused in helping you grow a business by offering unexpected hospitality. 50% less missed calls our practices have that use OrthoFi. Think about the amount of revenue that adds up to because you're outsourcing a lot of that chaos. A lot of people use answering services before they're open, after they're closed, sometimes during lunch. And the most ironic thing about it is that the most missed calls you have from a new patient perspective happen right in the middle of the day. And I say middle of the day, I don't mean literally like noon. I mean it during regular business hours when you're open, because of the chaos that goes on inside your practices. Mark Olson, who I think is here, he is in Leander in Wyoming. The very first month he started with Right Chat, 13 calls we answered for him. 13 as the backup, not as primary, as the backup. And this is not, like Oliver said earlier, this is not a sales pitch on OrthoFi, not a sales pitch on Right Chat, any patient group, any Invisalign, any of the other companies I bring up. It's not a sales pitch, it's reality. It's reality to get you moving to do things that can help your business tremendously. You ask yourself, why so many missed calls? And we have a couple of verbiage things I'm going to train you on, and we'll play with a couple of you, and then we'll be done. This is what the normal practice looks like, right? This is what the front desk looks like. Oh, I've got low battery. It's not good. This is what the waiting room looks like. You've got people verifying stuff, etc. You've got the clinic packed. You got the clinic packed so they can't come help with the phones. This is what the normal practice looks like. The TC's got 18,000 things to do, so does the receptionist. Matter of fact, if you all treated your treatment coordinator the way you do your receptionist, you go out of business. The receptionist is up there with chaos. Imagine treatment coordinators. People walking, while you're in the middle of a presentation, people walking in your door, left and right, door timer going off. You've got the phone ringing, so you have to say, oh, Ms. Jones, hold on, Joey, I gotta take this call. Boom, you take this call. That's what the receptionist world is like. You would never do to your treatment coordinator what you do to your receptionist every single day. And yet, they're expected to be fantastic. It's a disconnect. You've got to put the receptionist in an environment and set them up for success. That person at your front desk, your phone shouldn't be there. That's the last place the phone should be. That should be a concierge whose only job is to meet and greet, welcome tour, make sure the office is great. And you can turn yourself into a hospitality center if you commit to outsourcing a lot of these other things. Hopefully my computer will work with me. Now, imagine the no-shows we talked about. 3 missed new patient calls now a month. So if you're a practice that gets about 25 to 30 new patients a month, Right Chat has the data. We answer about 3 to 5 missed new patients a month. So if you're at 25 new patients a month, our practices usually go almost to 30 every single month, instantly, overnight. But if you look at this and you combine it with the no-shows, how much revenue are you losing? It's 151,200 times 2 now. This is all happening to everybody in this room, but you can't put your finger on it, so you're not looking to fix it. Who in here does Invisalign? Just using it as an example. Right? Do you feel the pain every time that lab bill is yanked out of your bank account? You feel the pain. The doctors are always coming to me and other faculty members of the line saying, what can we do to be more profitable? Increase our share to share, to make more money. You know, how do we lower the lab bill? Everyone always says that. Why? Because you see the money going out of your account every day. You don't see these things going out of your account every day. So very few of you look at this. And those are the things that add up to way more than what your line bill is, but you just can't see it. Lack of perceived value, and then we're done. This right here, very passionate about, and you have a problem in this industry where people look at you as the same. You all have x-ray machines. You may have an iTero. Whether you use it during the sales process or not, it's a different story, but you usually have a scanner of some kind. You have degrees. You have a waiting room. You do clear aligners, braces, maybe you do both, right? So on the perception level that they have from top level is that you're all the same. They don't know a good school from a not so good school. They don't know a great rotation of a certain tooth compared to, they don't know, right? What they do know is did you create that on the non-clinical things. And receptionists in here, this will make everything I'm talking about, but really what I'm about to talk about, will make the treatment coordinator's job so easy. So easy. Maybe you're a great treatment coordinator, you've got great conversion. The goal here is how can you have that conversion a little better, but spend 10 minutes less every exam, right? Or maybe you don't have such great conversion. How do we get your conversion up and teach you how to spend 10, 15 minutes less? And you do it by getting them to buy you before they show up to your door. That is how you do it. Remember the yogurt. So if you want people to complete their paperwork on time or early, take a lot of pictures, okay?
Receptionist, remind me who you are in here. Watch no hands go up. There's one. All right. Come on, Loki, stand up and run up with me. You gotta go fast, we're running out of time, maybe overtime. I have a bad habit of running overtime, I don't do it on purpose. I just start telling stories and then I get way off track. Excuse me, okay. So, she calls you, fine. She calls you, you're gonna answer the phone, and I want you to get her to complete her paperwork. Ready? Why can't I not find the button? Yeah. Oh, is that mic on? It is? Oh, man, Annabelle, looks good. All right, come up here, we get to talk to the mic. Hello. Yeah. Okay. All right, tell her in your own way and how you would do it now. Okay, phone call's going, and now let her know you're gonna send her the paperwork.
Hi, thank you for calling for Family Dental. Sorry.
I can skip all that. Let's say the call's already happened. Now it's the paperwork time, you're gonna let her know that you're gonna send it to her.
All right, Anna, now that we have your appointment set for this upcoming Monday at 12 o'clock, just wanted to let you know that we have some paperwork for you to fill out. I'll send you a text message with a link. That link is going to have all of the registration forms, insurance info that I need prior to your appointment.
Great job, round of applause, right? Here's where you're gonna have to stay up here. We're gonna switch roles. But while you went, I pulled up something that if you mystery called 1,000 practices, and this is not about being wrong or right. When we work privately with practices, it's one of the biggest things we started. You did nothing wrong. It was good. It was polite. And it's not about wrong or right. It's about what image are you building in people's minds. The framing effect. It's the 10% fat versus 90% fat free. Okay? So that's about, give or take some words, what everybody says is that. And remember, if you're the only practice, not as big of a deal. Still a big deal, but not nearly as big. Well, what if they're calling multiple practices? Now, they've scheduled it 3, you're included. They have to fill out 3 different paperworks, right? Because that's the industry. So obviously the one that's digital has the upper hand. But what makes that even better is the receptionist that can sell me and my family why it's not a waste of my time. Because we think it's a waste of our time for all the reasons I said earlier. So what if we said something like this? Take a screenshot of this. This would be a script that I want to give you, but it does not replace the need to practice. In the podcast, the February one, the why your receptionist is the treatment coordinator, and then also the framing effect one, it dives into a lot more than I can right now. But this right here is, you can talk about it. Just read it. You can read it. Into the mic. Dun, dun. You can do it.
Mr. Jones wants to know your patient paperwork.
No. Now you can.
And our patients love it. They don't have to print anything, and you can do it right from your phone. This paperwork is very important to our team. We will go over it, discuss it as a team, and make sure we deliver a completely organized experience for you and your family. Do I have your commitment to getting that done by tomorrow morning?
So the last one, great job, round of applause. The last one is what's called a commitment question. If you want somebody to be compliant, whether it be wearing their aligners, not breaking brackets, or filling out paperwork or whatever, a commitment question, just asking them that final question makes all the other things packed in this paragraph that much more powerful. The key, though, is making sure it's practiced enough to where you can read it off the cuff, right? So, Mrs. Jones, I'm going to email you your paperwork. This is so important to fill out. I know you've probably filled out paperwork before, and practices felt it was a waste of time. We're different. We're all digital. We're unique. We're innovative. And our team is going to take that paperwork. We're going to sit down and meet as a group, and we are going to make sure your experience is personalized for your wants and needs, because that is what you and your family deserve. Now, you tell me if they've ever had those words spoken to them in their entire life as it relates to paperwork. Unexpected hospitality. I said the same thing there. And at the end, do I have your commitment to getting that done today or at latest tomorrow morning? Question mark. Your paperwork adoption, even if you're not digital, by the way, will go up. But if you add value, this is 90% fat-free. Building an entirely different picture
around why my family should take the time to complete that paperwork early. Okay, great job. I thought. All right. We just got to get that one straight. Now, want to increase same-day starts. Who wants to be picked on? Nobody, right? So no one's going to volunteer? Come with me. Yeah, come on, hold my hand. All right. Come up to this microphone right there. All right, so you want to increase your same-day starts. You're on a new patient call with me. Tell me something that you may say to get me to do that. The same-day starts.
Because I did want to let you know, in increments, we do allow, we do start doing things, they start. So we do always encourage for you to go ahead and have either an exciting party here or have them available for the workshop.
That was really good. High five. This isn't a high five. This is fun. Now I'm going to give you a high five. Good stuff. You're off the hot seat. That was really good and way better. Yeah, you can sit down. Unless you want to hang out up here, that'd be fine. So what she said is way better than what most people say. Most people don't say anything on a new patient call about a same-day start. But what you have to be careful of is you've got to verbalize it in a way that makes it sound that it doesn't really benefit you, it benefits them. So that's the benefit experience. It's a Ritz-Carlton technique where you actually say how this benefits you. We're going to use the iTero machine, how this benefits you. You're going to complete your paperwork on time or early, how this benefits you and your family. You actually use that terminology. It's part of the Ritz-Carlton experience training that they put every single employee through. And the reason you do is that sets up how this benefits you. It turns on because people are not good listeners. Like we're designed as humans. We're taught how to read, we're taught how to write, we're taught how to think, we're taught how to speak, we're taught how to act. We are not taught how to listen. We're not good listeners. So your presentation skills in a time where things from a consumer perspective are hectic, busy, short attention span, your presentation skills have never been more powerful than they are now. Because you've got to learn how to keep people's focus. And it's hard, it's not easy. Again, you all going back and focusing on just 3 things, blocking an hour or 2 for every single week to meet with your team and practice and role play and set your expectations as a leader that this will be implemented and you'll keep practicing it until you get at a high level. That's hard work. But that's also focus. And that's also how you always kick the other practices butt. Because they will never commit to those kind of things. So you've got to be an expert. Here's something right here, okay? A couple things what this does. Is it 100% fail-proof? Of course not. But there's some things that it does, okay? You'll notice in here a couple of things. One, it invites any other party that may be a decision maker to the appointment, right? Now, a lot of times parents, and we talk to patients that are in our practices when they have a clinic and we're in there, because we want to get patients' perspectives too. A lot of times they'll give us feedback, I didn't even know I could bring mine. You know, they'll tell you, well, I thought that was too many people. I didn't know I could bring 5 or 3 or whatever it may be. So you're just making a simple comment of, Mrs. Jones, we would love to have any other decision makers involved in this process. We'd love to have them come to the appointment. They're more than welcome. They can enjoy the appointment with you and your kid, even your son, even your daughter, whatever it may be. Right? Or we can zoom them in. So maybe dad's at work, right? Can't show up to the 2 o'clock because he's at work. Maybe he can zoom in. Right? So if you at least allow the opportunity, it's amazing how many people will go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll bring him, he can come. Or yeah, he actually would love that. And what objection does that help you overcome when they're sitting in front of you? Come on, treatment coordinator, you know where I'm going with this. Who's the treatment coordinator? There you are. You kind of? Is that like I'm a treatment coordinator, but I'm not very good? You're the trainers? Well, okay, this will be good because you're newer. What do you think that helps overcome whenever mom sits in front of you with little girls? Boom, I got to talk to dad, right? Is it 100% fail-proof? Like I said, of course not. Nothing is. But you can see how that can lead to overcoming that objection. Now, a lot of times they give you that objection. It's not true. That's objection of, I don't want to buy from you, so let me throw dad into the equation. Like, you'll have to understand that's not always reality what they're saying. And of course, sometimes, and probably the majority of the time, it is actually true. Right? So let's look at this. Mrs. Jones, we know you're busy. This is how, whoever went earlier, you did really good. But you want to, again, make sure that it's benefiting them.
right? Now, this leaves out the benefit terminology. This is from an older deck. But right here, Mrs. Jones, we know you and your family are busy. Your time's important. We respect your time. And what our patients love about this office is we offer the same day courtesy. We know you don't want to be coming back and forth and making appointments to get started. You want to be convenient for your family. Our patients love the fact that they can show up at that very first visit and they can start the treatment right away. And everybody in here, you shouldn't be a practice, and this will show that it's busy from an admin standpoint, 2 braces heavy. If you're a practice that can't do same-day starts 100% of the time, you have holes in the boat. It should be across the board. I'm here in front of your TC, and I say, put braces on me now. You should put braces on me now. And if you can't, you need to rethink that consumer journey. You may need to outsource more. You may need to be more clear aligner heavy. Whatever it may be, there's a multitude of things that go into it. But you never want your busyness to have to go, I know you want to get started, but we can start you down the road. And the other thing that it does, it allows the receptionist to be able to say this 100% foolproof, meaning that she doesn't have to worry about the treatment coordinator or doctor going, you can't start you today, after the receptionist just said you offer that courtesy. So you have to see, you're telling a story. The receptionist can't say one thing, and the treatment coordinator another, vice versa. You're creating a story. You're reading a book, and one chapter doesn't lead to the next. Probably not a real good book. That's what you all are doing. From how your mindset is business-wise, to when they shop, to when they call, to when they hang up, to when they show up, to the digital workflow, your exam processes, presenting money. If they don't buy, how you follow up pending treatment. If they're not clinically ready, how you do OBS differently. Once they do buy from you, what's the experience look like now from an unexpected standpoint, non-clinically? All of that has to flow together to maximize your success. So that will help you increase the same-day starts. Just letting them know, by the way, that you offer it, boom. They don't know they can do it unless somebody's telling them. But that right there will get them more prepared to walk through your doors ready to buy. Now, want to turn price shoppers into value-based buyers. Anybody ever take a call that went, and I use Invisalign just because a lot of people do it. You can substitute, maybe you're a Spark user, whatever it is, you can substitute it into this. But has anybody ever taken a call in here where someone said, how much do you charge for it? How much does so-and-so cost? We're seeing some heads nod. So you and you can come up on the stage with me. That's what you get for nodding your head. What can I say? I blame you. Come here. Come on, hurry. You excited? No? You should be. This is one of the things our new patient group practices do regularly, is they block an hour every week for role plays. And the employees at first, obviously they push back, they don't like it. But 99.9% of the time, after about 3, 4, 5 months, what happens is the employees see how much of a better position they're put in for success as they handle complaints, objections, how to greet people, whatever it may be. They're put in a better position of success, which means the better skill sets you arm these two with in your office, now you offer more value to the practice, where you go back to the doctor and say, I want this. That's how you get a raise. You stay in a practice hourly employees for 25 years and think that's value. That's not value. That's a piece of the value puzzle. It's how much you're showing the doctor you're committed to improving all the time. And that's hard in this industry because this industry sometimes has our patients don't want. Oliver brought that. The our patients reference, you guys got to get rid of that reference, right? Your patients are consumers. They're white collar, blue collar, ethnicities, somewhat different things. But in the end, everybody wants to be treated well and unexpected. Okay, so how much does Invisalign cost? Which one wants to do this? All right, come on, get use the mic. Sing a song. No? Why not? You got any knock-knock jokes? No? All right, how much does Invisalign cost?
So Invisalign ranges anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000, depending on the complexity of the case. So once doctor, sees you and gives us an idea of how much or how long your case is going to be and what it all entails, we'll be able to give you that pricing for you.
Well done. Round of applause. Let's switch the roles here. How much do you charge for Invisalign?
I think it's fine.
So, oh, you are? Yeah. We'll make it up. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. Make everything up. We're the chief everything ones.
4,500.
start with the lefty, the minimum lefty, and then, upon examination, we'll tell you exactly how much it is.
Awesome, all right, clap. So what you see now that I pulled up, and I love doing this because I have what people are gonna say in the next slide. We already know it. Because we mystery call thousands of practices for data, but I also do workshops for Align and other companies, and we do this, and people say the same things over and over and over again. Which you say to yourself, it's not a big deal, because nothing you did was wrong. Again, it's not a wrong or right. 10% fat contains 10%, it's not wrong. It's just showcased differently, right? So how can we change this? Because if I'm shopping around, there's two ways reception handles this. And you can tell if the doctor or office manager said, we don't quote fees here, because that's as far as the training goes. Two things happen. Well, we charge $6,000 for Invisalign, right? So now the only way you just won is if you're the cheapest. Because if I called 5 and you tell me 4, and the other practice tells me 5, and one practice tells me 8, who am I going to? It's probably the cheapest, right? So that's the only way you win that game. The other one that will really piss people off is telling them we can't do it. You need to come in. We've got to see you. We've got to go through a process. Blah, blah, blah. Right? So basically, you're in a lose-lose situation because people don't want to be told that their question cannot be answered. So we can always tell if a doctor says we don't quote fees, because whenever we mystery call, the receptionist basically says we don't quote fees over the phone. Right? So in a consumer's perspective, as they're shopping around, how would you feel? Right? So what if we changed it, and there's going to be a few screens here that come up. This isn't all of it. Right? Your goal as a receptionist, as a practice, is to convince people to buy your value and why your value is unique, why your value is better over your price. The price shopper that doesn't want to buy high dollar, the reason they don't want to buy high dollar is they don't see any additional value in you over the other practices. That's why price shoppers exist. They're not bad people, they're not bad patients. You have to learn how to sell them on why they should pay more. And we see it all the time. They will. All of them, of course not. That's in any industry. But a vast majority of them will drop 7 instead of the 5 number if you're open choice from a flexible payment standpoint. That's why an OrthoFi tool, you can be more expensive but have more affordable payment plans. See, it's not about being cheap. It's about being easy and removing the barriers to entry, which OrthoFi does so well for all kinds of reasons, open choice and others. So let's start it with something like this. Mrs. Jones, that is a fantastic question. And we get asked that question a lot because Dr. Reynolds is the leading Invisalign provider in the state, and we are so proud to work with him. Continues. You need to know something important, Mrs. Jones. Everything we do here, personalized, for you and your family. We put a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of attention to detail into that. And therefore, your investment in treatment is very unique. It's very unique. And what your real investment is in the doctor. It's not Invisalign. Invisalign's a great product when you partner and use the right doctor. Otherwise, it's a piece of crap. I wouldn't say that part of it. But it's like any tool. If you don't use it right, it's like what OrthoFi deals with this, we deal with it, where we get out companies not good. They're not good because you can use it right. That's why they're not good in your mind. Yeah, look in the mirror. It's the same way with a patient. Yeah, I didn't get the results I wanted from Dr. Jones. Well, it's probably because you wore your aligners about 3 hours a day, missed your appointments, you didn't use the tool right, but they still blame you. We all live in that same world in just a little bit different way. Therefore, to answer your question accurately, please let me know what type of malocclusion classification you want. And this is what you're going to get. Now, you can't see it, but you'll be able to tell the body language on the other side of the phone where they're going, what the hell is that? And that's exactly what you want. It's clinical confusion. And this is a way to help build your expertise and your authority. You want them to be stumped because they've never thought about that before. They think a clear aligner is a clear aligner. That's why Smile Direct Club does well, even though they have 1 million lawsuits. They have CEOs, multimillionaires as patients. People don't know. I do this thing in Uber cars when I travel. And I say, would you spend more on Invisalign? about 99% of the time, they go, what's the difference? Like, why would I spend 7,000 when I could spend 2? Not that long, making sure I woke up for today. People aren't, that was a joke. Damn, sleep's in late.
It wasn't 3 a.m. to bed though. But no, that was my, hey, my time's almost up. Alarm.
So what you have to say, and then when they're stumped, this is how you finish it. And when you partner with OrthoFi, I'm going to put up something else here in just a minute. But this is how you finish this. After they're stumped and they go, what's that? Boom, hit them. Mrs. Jones, that's exactly why the doctor you choose matters, why we need to see you, and customize something very specific for you or a family member if that's who you are. All right, our practice is all about combining, and you go back. Now, if you're going to quote a fee, it needs to be how 90% of the United States of America buys. What do you think it is? Low monthly payments. When's the last time you saw a car commercial that said this thing is 80 grand and you get $3,000 off? Come buy us. Never talk about that. Why? Because that would be to about 10. That would be to my dad when he was still alive. My dad was an engineer. A lot of engineers are paid in full people, and you can talk to them in a different way because they have different buying tendencies. So if you are going to quote, you quote the low monthly payment, right? $185 a month, whatever it may be. Now, if you add OrthoFi to this equation because of the slider, you become more flexible. So you have maybe a lower monthly payment on. You could say payments as low as. But even better, you can say, we partner, and this is how, if your receptionist nails it, and you're the practice that outsources when your competition doesn't, this is one of many ways on how OrthoFi becomes a buying reason that people are going to buy and show up to begin with to your practice. We partner as part of our commitment to advanced technologies and being innovative. We partner with a company called OrthoFi. They're amazing. You get to pick your down payment. You get to pick your low monthly payment. It's totally personalized to your wants and needs as a family. And on top of that, we offer that same day courtesy that our patients just love. This is how you handle this. And it's unlikely you can edify that if you're just using your own in-house payments, right? Because your own in-house payments won't be as flexible. There's really no possible way that it can be. So this is how you handle price shoppers. What you can see is I'm walking around the room intentionally, not looking at the script. And you can see my messaging is the same as what the script is telling you, but I'm not looking at the script. This is where you go from memorization to synthesis. There's 2 forms of learning. This industry is obsessed with scripts. I can't stand scripts. Scripts, C3PO, does not close anybody. We offer a same-day, that's how receptionists speak when they're on the script. You have to practice it enough to where you can make it your own, but the meaning and the psychological terminologies embedded, they don't change. This industry wants to make it their own, which is great. Treatment coordinators want to make it their own, receptionists want to make it their own, but the challenge if you do that too soon is you completely change the meaning of why the script works. So you've got to commit to practice to where this stuff can just roll off of your receptionist's tongue. And you will not believe the amount of money you will add to your bottom line in same-day starts. Increased cash flow, I've seen it time and time again. The more somebody values what they're buying, the more they don't like and trust you. Oftentimes, the more money they're willing to part ways with today. There's a direct correlation with that, which is a 3-hour workshop in itself from the data we have. Now, can you tell me, go back to this. General questions, 2 more people and then we're done. Someone, you look like somebody that wants to come up and role play. Come on, let's get one of the dogs up here. 2 dogs. 2 dogs. How you doing? Yeah, you just got ratted out. I love it when other people pick other people. All right. General questions. So this is something, again, contains 10% fat or this. So somebody says, come on, let's mic it up. You get to go first. And this is something
that about 995 out of 1,000 mystery calls we make, and I say that with real hardcore data that we have, the receptionist says the exact same thing. With some different words, of course, but you'll see the meaning here in just a second. So ask him what you should expect first appointment.
You're gonna have an amazing experience that you're gonna be talking about all night.
All right, well done. Now switch. All right.
You're also going to get a great experience at our practice. We're going to get a tour, we're going to get some records, and then we're going to do a smile simulation followed by a personalized consult from our doctor.
Good. Clap. So both of those, just like everyone else, I think there's been 4 other people that have gone today. Those are good. It's not right or wrong. And every one of you that have gone today, honestly, is better than the majority of calls we make. But what if we did something like this? Remember imaging. Every word, like if you do remote monitoring in here, telling somebody you can scan every week, you just told them it's optional. Practices do it all the time and then wonder why patients are compliant or not compliant. You just told them you can. Okay, I'll do it online. Right? That's the imaging bill. Ever say the word recommend? We recommend that you scan every week, or we recommend treatment. Well, you just told them it's optional. Recommend by nature is optional, not needed. Do it if you want. Those are the images that come to people's mind. The word is prescribed. That's a trigger word. The whole course in itself. Change your word from recommend to prescribe. TCs and doctors. That is a needed thing coming from an authoritative figure and just an easy way to switch your verbiage. With this is basically what receptionists say. Every time. We're going to take some x-rays, you're going to meet the doctor, we're going to take some photos. Because that's what everybody says. Consumers demand, based on that 91% stat, they demand hospitality and unexpected experiences, unlike ever before. They are begging for it because it's also never been lower in America. The hospitality in this country absolutely sucks. Starbucks used to be known for it. You walk into a Starbucks now and it is crap. Complete crap, and it's because of a lot of different reasons that we don't have time to go into today. Present you with your treatment plan and cost. Come and see us. You want to schedule? What if, again, we said something like this? And again, you have to set up your new patient experience for this to be true. You can't lie to them, right? Like they actually have to be greeted the moment they walk through the door, and that's one of those things that you should obsess over your customer. If you're obsessing over a customer, it should be 100% inexcusable that any patient ever sits in your waiting room and waits. That should be inexcusable in your mind because you are telling them your time is not important. If my appointment's at 2 and I come in with my family at 1:58, someone better be ready to greet me because that's how you offer unexpected hospitality. And the more you outsource, the more somebody can be ready to greet people right when they walk through the door because they're not inundated with insurance verification and calling whoever, appointment confirmations. All of that can be substituted back into hospitality. Absolutely, I'd be happy to. We value your time. And again, you're not going to say all these things at every call, right? These are just value proposition statements, if you will, based on the situation. But this one you can, because a lot of times they do ask, what should I expect in my first appointment? So this right here, right? You're going to be great. This is where receptionists, you can edify. Miranda's the treatment coordinator at Jeff Pascal's practice. So you can edify your treatment coordinator, right? You can even say you're going to get a welcome video from her 48 hours prior to your appointment. Be looking for it. Just you saying that on the phone, that's not in this language, but just saying that. Now when you send out that TC custom welcome video, they're expecting it. It's not like an unexpected thing. What's that? Is that spam? Right now they're expecting it. So absolutely, we'd be happy to answer that question. We value your time, and therefore you'd be greeted by our great TC, Miranda, the moment you walk through the door. It's what you and your family deserve. She's been here 10 years. Our patients absolutely love her, and she's going to take fabulous, fabulous care of you. You're also going to get to see a really cool, and this is where the iTero machine, or if you have another one, this is where it comes in to getting people excited to show up. X-rays, image, framing effect, radiation. I don't want x-rays. You've got to speak the language of your prospective customer. They hate x-rays. Now, if you have a 3D cool one, different story. We're not going to teach that verbiage. But if you don't have the 3D cool one, this is not a reason they're gonna buy from you or see any additional value, right? Analog-based photos. Most of the aligned faculty don't even take photos anymore until the patient buys. It's all iTero scans. The new one replaces the need for a lot of photos. All digital, and it wows them. But why it wows them is because even if the other 4 practices I'm calling have an iTero, I'm never gonna know it. Why? Because the receptionist isn't gonna tell me. Now, this is a way for you to be the only practice in town that has this cool, innovative, unique technology, even though the other practices have it too. We're gonna show you this really cool 3D rendering of what your smile is gonna look like when Dr. Reynolds is finished. He's an amazing orthodontist, and this technology helps deliver amazing results. Our patients love to see it, can't wait to show it to you. See, receptionists, you have to build excitement. Especially, like I said, the farther you schedule them out, the more excitement you better build, the more memorable you better be for them to still come to that appointment. So you have to, again, get people excited about your amazing technology, because if you have amazing technology, but you're not selling that on the phone, no one's gonna know that you're different than all the other places that they're calling. Make sense? Okay, awesome. And then finish it with just right here. All right, again, these are all scripting. You don't have to read it word for word. I want to pack as much in there for you as possible. All right, unexpected hospitality. As you go through and map out your journey, everybody, think about what they would expect at this given time. And are you offering more, less, or the same? And if you're offering what they expect, the same, that's just as bad as less. Right? Offer more, be unexpected. It will allow you to work harder, not smarter. Reinvent the new patient onboarding experience, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Good? You have any questions? No? All right. Thanks for listening. Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh. You got the stare from Oliver.
So, this may be long answer to talk about right now. But when you talk about state-based drugs, and I'm just what you're talking about. We've been doing state-based drugs for years. I love them. But your presentation talks about being able to use state-based drugs 100% of the time. I totally understand what you're talking about. You know, working hard, not harder, or the five that they do. Can take away so much of the front desk and the room and the financial. Well, what are you talking about then? Because you only have so much room, and you only have so many staff members. So how does that translate to dollars?
We got on to it.
Well, actually,
We totally got